In this video, I'll show you the top 7 most commonly asked questions at Premier Inn interviews and help you plan great answers that'll help you get the job. So the first question you need to look at is, what do you know about Premier Inn? And if they ask this, they want to see good preparation. So let's look at what a good answer looks like, and then I'm going to share with you facts that you can take to your interview and talk about to answer this question well. So fundamentally, you must do your research. And the good news for you is I've done lots of research for you, and I'm going to present some facts that you can take to your interview. You want to use this question to impress them. So if they ask this question and you've got a really great answer prepared and you've done your research, it's really going to help you get the job, because it's going to make a really positive first impression that you're someone that takes this interview and therefore is likely to take the job very seriously. So let's look at the facts that you can take to your interview. So the first thing is simply describe them as a major hotel brand. Currently, at the time this video is going out, they are the largest hotel brand in the UK by various metrics, but you want to check exactly where they are ranking compared to the competitors. The next thing you want to say is that they are very well located. They tend to be at city centres, airports and motorways, so these are very convenient for their customers and drive demand to the locations. They offer very good value, so Premier Inn isn't pricing itself to be extremely cheap but low quality. It's trying to price itself to be exceptionally good value, so you're getting a quality, dependable, reliable room that's of the same standard wherever you go in the country, and you're paying a very fair price for that. They have restaurant and bars typically co-located with their hotels, and that drives additional revenue streams. The company is currently owned by Whitbread PLC, and it is a growing business that is expanding internationally into more markets, particularly Germany, Ireland, the UAE, and Qatar being the major parts where it's expanding currently. The company has a lot of hotel rooms, and what is a good idea is to actually know the number of hotel rooms and the number of hotels. So just quickly check on the Premier Inn website how many rooms they've got, how many hotels they've got, and list that number. And it's quite an impressive number. You should also refer to the company as being innovative. They've launched various different brands within Premier Inn that are quite innovative. They are famous for using Lenny Henry in a lot of their advertising, and people recognize him along with the Premier Inn brand. The company was founded either in 1987 or 2007, depending on how you look at it. So Whitbread launched their hotels business in 1987, but it became Premier Inn in 2007. So let's look at the simple history that you could say. It started as Travel Inn in 1987. Then the company Whitbread bought Premier Lodge, and then they merged it together to form Premier Travel Inn, and then the word travel was dropped from that, and that's where you get Premier Inn coming in 2007. So what I would do is screenshot this or take some notes from here and then discuss these facts in your interview, and you'll be well prepared for this question. The next one you want to be really prepared for is, what is your availability like? They're going to be interested in what hours you can do, and what you want to do is say what they want to hear as much as possible. So let's look at what a good answer looks like, and then some good phrases that you can take to the interview and use to answer this question well. So fundamentally, yes is a good answer. If they ask about certain times, the more you say yes, the more likely you are to get the job. You want to show that you're flexible, so offer lots of variety. You want to offer as much as you possibly can. Of course, you can't offer to work times that you could never work, because that's obviously going to cause problems later on. If you commit to working certain days and then when you get the job offer, you say you can't do those, that's going to potentially cause you to lose the job offer. So you can't offer what you can't do, but in the interview, you offer as much as you possibly can and focus your answer on what you can do rather than talking about all the things that you can't do. You want to focus definitely 100% on the can do, and you want to show that you meet the needs of Premier Inn. So if you own this location, or if you were the manager, what answers would you want to hear? And what you don't want to hear is people saying, I can never work this day, I can't do weekends, I can't do this, I can't do that, because that's really going to put you off. So let's look at some good phrases that you could use, and you can choose which ones of these actually match with your situation. So you could say, I have very good availability and I would be available to work shifts potentially at any time the hotel operates. that is really offering the maximum possible amount of flexibility. You could say I would be open to a variety of possible shifts, including daytime, evening, weekend, or night shifts. And you want to list as many of those as you can. Because remember, the hotel likely operates 24/7 and is staffed 24/7. You could say I would be interested in overtime if available. It may not be available, but it's just a nice thing to offer in addition. And of course, you would earn more money if you did overtime. You could also say, if they tell you the hours on the advertisement that they put out for the job, you could say, I can firmly commit to being available for all of the working hours stated on your job advertisement. So look through that list of potential answers, try and say yes as much as possible, and you're going to be successful in this question. A follow-up question you could get is something like, can you work weekends? Can you work night shifts? Can you work evenings? Can you work on this day? And whenever they ask this sort of question, what you really want to try and do is say yes. Of course, you may decide to say no if it's impossible for you, but realize that that's going to reduce your chance of getting the job. So if they ask, can you work weekends? Some people would just say yes, which is a fine answer. It's what they want to hear, but let's go beyond that. Let's have a really good answer ready. So you could say something like, I appreciate that Premier Inn operates 7 days per week, so show some insight into the realities of the business. And I expect that weekend working will be a normal part of working with the company. So you just admitting what is likely to really happen if you do get the job, that you're going to be put on schedules that are probably going to include weekend working, because of course the hotel is going to be busy there. And then you finish off by saying, I am happy to work on the weekend if and when required. So basically you're saying yes, showing some knowledge of the business and showing that you understand the reality of working in a hotel. And that's a really strong answer. The next question you could get, unfortunately, is around guest complaints. So how would you handle a guest complaint? And remember that people staying in hotels obviously expect good service, they expect good quality rooms, and so you're going to regularly encounter guests complaining about things that aren't quite right, and it's going to be part of your role to put it right. So let's look at how you come up with a strong and confident answer. So you first say very strongly, I always take guest complaints very seriously. So that's the first thing that you're going to be very clear about. Then you say, I start by carefully and attentively listening to customer complaints, because that's really what the customer wants. They want someone to listen to their complaint. The next thing you do is you say, I always interact in a professional manner. And you're also going to stay calm. You're going to be very, very clear that you're not going to lose your temper. You're not going to shout. You're not going to argue back. You're going to be very professional and you're going to represent the brand well. You then say that you work to build a good rapport and show that you're on the customer side. Then what you do is you could say something like, I use the herd technique when dealing with complaints. And this is a nice systematic procedure for dealing with a customer complaint. So that is that you hear the complaint, you empathize with the complaint, you apologize where something's gone wrong, and then you resolve the complaint. And then lastly, you try to diagnose it. Because what you don't want is customers complaining every single day about the same thing and it never getting fixed. So if you're noticing a pattern of customer complaints, you may pass that on to management, make sure that they're aware, provide some feedback and try and support in the process of solving that problem so that you minimize guest complaints and maximize their experience. And then to round off the answer, you say something like, I am confident, given my past experience, that I can handle confidently complaints that I may encounter at Premier Inn. So link it to your previous experience and tell them very clearly that guest complaints is not going to be a problem and I'm confident and I can deal with those. The next question that they often ask, and is really hard to come up with an answer on the spot, is where do you see yourself in 5 years? So we'll look at a good answer and we'll look at a bad answer. So in a good answer, it should be credible. They should be listening to your answer and they should take it seriously. You got to think about what can Premier Inn offer. Realistically, what is available for you working at Premier Inn and how can you develop as part of the team? You should be talking about earning, not expecting. So if you're talking about progression and over 5 years, you want to move into more responsibility or take on leadership or move into management, you should be talking about how you're going to earn that rather than just saying in 5 years, I'm going to be a manager. That's not really a great answer. Why are you going to be? How are you going to get there? The next thing is you definitely want to think about how does Premier Inn fit in. Then we'll look at some suggestions of what you can say, and we definitely need to think about what you should not be saying. So anything that is stupid, anything that's not going to be taken seriously, you want to absolutely avoid. The next thing is you should not be talking about anything that's not relevant to your Premier Inn role. So don't talk about personal things. Anything that isn't relevant to the actual job, they're not going to be interested in. Don't offend the panel. One of the worst ways to answer this is talking about being their boss or being on the other side of the table and interviewing people rather than being interviewed, or giving the idea that you're going to do much better than the people interviewing you. So if you're saying in 5 years you're going to be doing a certain job where the person interviewing you took 8 years or 10 years to advance to that level, that's maybe not going to look very good. And that person may have better qualifications and more experience than you before they started. And you're talking about exceeding where they've reached straight away. That's not going to be very popular. And just think about, does it matter to Premier Inn? Is this going to help you get the job, or is it irrelevant? And you want to focus on what is actually going to help you get the job. So let's look at some good phrases you could talk about. And the one thing that you must not talk about is leaving Premier Inn. That is the worst answer you could possibly give. Because if you say that you plan to leave the company before you even get offered the job, this is not the time to talk about leaving. This is not the time to talk about getting other jobs when you're trying to get a job here. So let's look at what you should say. So you may want to talk about moving up one level. So within 5 years, moving from one role to one role higher is usually always entirely reasonable. You may talk about gaining more responsibility in very general terms. You might talk about supporting new employees, that after 5 years, you'll be very well established in the business and you would be really interested in mentoring and supporting new employees. You may talk about taking on some more leadership, actually leading something within the organization. You could talk about moving into being a supervisor or actually moving into management, depending on where your starting point is. You could talk about being established as an outstanding employee. You may be interested in pursuing relevant qualifications, and you could express an interest in that now. And you want to definitely, within 5 years, be recognized as someone that is outstanding in their role, because that's a really good achievement and a thing that you should definitely be working towards, is building that strong, outstanding relationship and being a trusted and integral member of the team. So that's how you answer this question. I would definitely have a bullet pointed answer about what you're hoping to achieve in 5 years and how you're going to get there. And that's going to give you a strong answer. Then the next question is, why Premier Inn? Why do you actually want to work here? And they're going to be very interested in this answer. So let's look at how you can actually plan a good answer. So you want to think about, what do you like about Premier Inn? Why is this the right place for you? Think about how Premier Inn matches your experience, and think about how Premier Inn matches your personal skills. Because this question is not just to explain why you want to work here, it's to explain why you should work here and why you're a good hire. You want to be explaining that you're a great person to hire, as well as explaining that this is the right place for you to work. Think about career opportunities. Remember, you're probably applying to quite a large location that probably has a lot of employees and a lot of different roles that you could potentially explore in future. And what you want to make sure is, while you're answering it, that you're very positive and you're very enthusiastic. So let's look at some things that you might want to talk about. You could have had lots of experience as a Premier Inn guest. You may have enjoyed it very much. Talk about the great experiences you've had. Talk about that you enjoy interacting with guests, that you're looking forward to meeting lots of new people, and that's something that's going to be constant in your work and something you like. That you're delivering a very useful service, that you're providing high quality accommodation at a reasonable and affordable, fair price for travelers and helping the economy. You could talk about how it matches your previous experience, or talk about the jobs you've had in the past, and view Premier Inn as a continuation of what you've done before. Talk about that I have extensive hospitality experience, and link your previous experience to doing this job and say that it's much the same as what I've done in the past. So this is something that I know that I'm likely to enjoy and something that I am good at. You could say that you're looking to have a very active job. You don't want to be sitting around all day. Make sure you're applying for a job that is very active, and you can talk about the variety. Talk about teamwork, that you like working in large teams, and say that you can build a career with Premier Inn, and that you see that over the length of your career that there's opportunity to work in potentially a variety of roles and progress within the organization over time, and that you see that this is a great career move. And so there's some great things that you could talk about. Again, I would definitely have a bullet pointed list explaining why you work here, how it matches with your previous experience, and what you like about Premier Inn, and then you have a great answer ready to go. Now, before we finish, here's a list of good questions that you could ask at the end. So Premier Inn are likely to say at the end of the interview, do you have any questions for us, or is there anything you would like to ask us? And saying no generally gives a bad impression. So let's make sure that you have thought about 2 or 3 questions that you could ask at the end. So one you could ask is, during your time at Premier Inn, what have you found to be the best part of working at Premier Inn? And find out what they like about working there and share in their enthusiasm and show some agreement with that. You could ask what training, development, and progression opportunities are potentially available for high-performing employees at Premier Inn. You might say, what would you recommend a new hire to Premier Inn do prior to starting to ensure they're well prepared for day one, and make commitments to doing anything that they suggest. You could say, I am, of course, highly interested in this Premier Inn role. Therefore, I would like to find out the next steps in your recruitment process post-interview, because you will probably want to find out what's going to happen, and then hopefully you can find out that now, so you're not waiting a long time thinking, when am I going to find out? Then you could finish the interview by sincerely and warmly thanking the panel, reiterate your interest, so explain briefly that you're very interested in the role, you're a firm candidate, and then end the interview on a positive, and that's how you finish. Definitely avoid asking about holidays, time off, delaying start dates, or trying to negotiate your pay before you have a job offer. That's really not going to go down very well. So I wish you the best of luck in your Premier Inn interview. Please like and subscribe and post in the comments the questions that Premier Inn asked you. I'd appreciate that, because then we can build up a database of lots of different questions that come up. And finally, thank you very much for watching.